The race to be the next Spartanburg County Sheriff is on, and voters will have 9 candidates on their ballots. They include current Deputy Robert Cheeks, former Deputy Andy Clark, current Spartanburg County Coroner Rusty Clevenger, and the list continues. Current Town Councilman in Lyman, Adam Crisp, former Deputy and candidate for Sheriff Nick Duncan, and current Deputy Randy Hollifield. And the rest of the candidates include Spartanburg Police Officer Joseph Pilato, retired State Trooper Bill Ryan, and retired law enforcement officer at the local and federal levels, Rick Stevens. And you decide soon. Early voting begins July 21st, with Election Day for the primary set for August 5th. And if a runoff race is needed, which is expected with 9 candidates, that election will be held on August 19th. This summer, Spartanburg County, you decide. And one of those candidates running for Spartanburg County Sheriff is County Coroner Rusty Clevenger. So, Mr. Clevenger, thank you so much for taking some time with us. You're currently serving as coroner. You have been since 2008. I think for a lot of people, when I tell them that the coroner is running for sheriff, they say, why does the coroner want to be sheriff? So why is that?
My career started in law enforcement. It actually started at Spartanburg Sheriff's Office in 1985. This August will be 40 years ago. I was blessed to be a part in a time where I started out in uniform patrol, worked my way up to investigations, which was narcotics and vice for a period of time. Then as a detective, and as a detective I worked my way up to homicide, and that's where I was employed, or the cases I was working before I left to go to work in the solicitor's office or the prosecutor's office.
You've been in investigations for a long time. As you said, this August marks 40 years. 40 years. So being able to experience all that, how has that prepared you for a moment to run for sheriff?
Well, the investigative part, you know, I had a love for law enforcement and protecting the community. That was something that was extremely paramount to me because I wanted to raise a family in a safe environment. I've been blessed to be able to do that. Once I, you know, were able to arrest the suspects and help victim families, there was another step that I could have taken, and that was to go on to prosecution, which I was happy to do. I took a job there in the 7th Circuit Solicitor's Office in 1997, actually January of 1997. That's where I stayed until I decided to run for coroner in Spartanburg, which was in 2008.
One of those things is you've been so deeply connected to Spartanburg County for so long. You've been coroner since 2008, 16 years. You had a close working relationship with the former Sheriff Chuck Wright.
Correct.
A lot of people may pair you two together. Where's the separation between you and the former sheriff if people are concerned that it'd be another term of the Chuck Wright administration?
Absolutely. So any coroner, any sheriff, any solicitor, any police chief, anyone else has to work closely with the other elected officials within their community. I'm as close to Barry Barnett, the solicitor in the 7th Circuit, the fire chiefs, the police chiefs. So yes, I was close to Chuck Wright, but I was also just as close to Barry Barnett, the city police chief in Spartanburg, the other fire chiefs, and the other city police chiefs within Spartanburg. So to just define that with a former sheriff is, to me, I'll let anybody form their own opinion. I'm not going to tell people how they're supposed to respond or how they're supposed to feel, but I can tell you any elected official needs to be working closely with the other elected officials to make sure the service to the citizen we serve is paramount and number one.
Some of the other candidates have come out. They're wanting to have this young, energetic appearance, saying a new wave for the Spartanburg County Sheriff. Why do voters need to trust it in you with 40 years of experience?
Okay, 40 years, and as I've already run down, started, you know, at the bottom. And that's where I see, doing the interviews with the deputies, that's where that's going to have to start. But to answer your question, you know, I understand the energy. I'm a very passionate still about my office and the sheriff's office. So I believe my passion, even, you know, as long as I've been in this, is going to be paramount when you pair it with the experience that I'm going to bring, the ability to run an office 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I have been doing for the past 16 and a half years, without any break in service or without any problems whatsoever. So to say it needs to be young and energetic, you can look at me. I am young and energetic right here because I love Spartanburg, and I want to make sure the citizens know that if something goes bump in the night or a crime occurs, that they've got the energy that it's going to need, plus the experience and the ability to run an office like I have for as long as I have.
You know the county so well. Some people on social media have asked about command staff. Do you have any idea who would be your command staff if elected sheriff?
No, I want to be the candidate that the people vote for. I want to show them what it is, my vision for what I see the sheriff's office being in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So I believe it a little problematic to start naming people to a command staff simply because I'm a very thorough person. If I'm elected, which I hope the citizens see fit to do that, that would be an interview process to make sure we're putting the right people in the right spots and not promising positions to try and get elected. And that's what I think the voters expect of me.
What is it that you're most proud of in 40 years of law enforcement?
The families I've served. There are families that I still connect with. I worked on the Dana Satterfield case. I was able to serve that family last year when they made a request about the bracelet and the rings that were still in the custody of the coroner's office because out of necessity and the DNA law that we have in South Carolina. And I asked an attorney to file a motion in front of the court to be able to get that family that property back for closure. I had another family on a homicide that I worked in Greer. The victim's name was Tom Norman. The suspect that I ran all the way to San Francisco and brought back for prosecution passed away in prison. So we were able to get that evidence released to them. And again, that was something very big for them. But even after this amount of time, after we're talking about cases from 1994, 95, these families still reach out to me. I still get to serve them, and it's an immense responsibility, but also it's just like I was discussing with you earlier, it's not a job if you love it, and I love it.
One of the other candidates and your opponents released their entire personnel file, 540 plus pages. With 40 years of law enforcement, it'd probably be a few pages longer than 540. So you releasing it all, one of those things it would take a while to release. But what do you want voters to know about your personnel file? If there's any disciplinary action or anything, or there are any marks that they may need to know about, and that way they can trust the sheriff who they want to elect?
I'm not concerned with my file. In fact, I stand behind everything that I've done. Being your coroner, elected coroner, and even the media dealing with me, they understand. They ask a question. I try and give them an answer very promptly. So to have to release some kind of a record or something else, I believe I've lived my record. I've lived my career in front of every citizen of Spartanburg County, and I've served them with distinction and honor. I'd be willing to release the personnel file. I have no problem with that. But I believe Spartanburg knows me well enough where I don't have to release something. I believe they know me well enough. They know me as a person. They know me as the coroner. They've known me as a detective. They've known me as someone that, prosecuted the heinous cases for them.
You mentioned that the voters know you. What would be your message to them right now that makes you stand out from what is now a crowded field, 9 candidates?
We have already mentioned some of the very key things here that I believe are very important, but I worked my way up as a deputy. I started off in 1985 running calls and made a lot of connections then simply because I have the ability to talk to people. I believe we ought to be sharing experiences, finding out what's going on in their lives and family lives, everything that has made a great difference to me. I have a lot of experience being able to get involved in the community. I've done that my whole career. Everything being said up till this point, I asked for the county's support. I asked for their trust in me as your coroner in 2008. You elected me, and you've elected me every year since then. And I believe when we talk about transparency and the issues that have just been brought up, everything's aired out. There is no, I have no complaints, and I believe the citizenry doesn't have any complaints if we're all telling the truth about things and rulings that we put on cases.
You mentioned the word yourself, transparency. That's
Yes.
something time and time again I've heard from people in Spartanburg County, from voters. They want transparency with this office. How do you plan to bring it to the sheriff's office?
Well, already I'm sharing everything that we can in the coroner's office to the media. If there's an inquiry, I try and be able to answer that within an hour, if that's at all possible. That will be the same with me in my administration, as well as the PIO. The individual will be in charge with releasing that information. So if it can be released, it will. But I also like the citizens to understand there are times where certain information doesn't need to be released to make sure that the sheriff's office or any city police officer that's investigating a case has the ability to hold that information kind of close. So if they get the suspect in front of them, it's not broadcast all over the United States about certain things about the investigation. We will report, and we will make sure that the citizens are made aware whenever something comes up of importance. That is my promise to you.
One more promise to the voters. What is that? What do you want them to know about the promise that you will bring to the sheriff's office?
I'm going to enact, we're going to get back to just what I was talking about. We're going to get back to talking to the community, and the police officers are going to get back to having what I call a good time policing. That would entail when they get in their car, they answer a call, they leave there, there's enough police officers, enough deputies on the road that they can actually stop and talk to business owners, to people in their communities, to interconnect. And if they have a problem, if the citizens have a problem, they'll be able to relate to one or more of the officers in their community. With all the technology we've got now, after COVID, we had a separation there. And I believe that's really something that's come in between maybe the citizens and their law enforcement. I want to get that back. That's something I think is extremely paramount, because I continue the relationships I've started 40 years ago with different people in the community, and those were the people that asked me, called and actively asked, we want you to run for sheriff. And those are the ones I'm really feeling obligated to, and to myself, to make sure that if something goes bump in the night, you know that a deputy is coming to help you, and they're going to deal with it in a professional manner, and they're going to deal with it to make you feel safe.
Candidate for Spartanburg County Sheriff and current County Coroner,
Yes,
Rusty
sir.
Clevenger, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.